pass away. Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we could do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out, they do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Change it, yeah, change it, yeah, just you and me. Change it, yeah, change it. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Need some help, y'all. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Yeah, yeah. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, everybody. Need a little help, y'all. Yes, I do. Need a little help. Say it, boy. Need some help, y'all. Change the world, what it used to be. Can't do it alone. Do it alone. Need some help, that. Need some help, that. Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up. Come on, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in there. No more about to thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Come on now. Wake up, everybody. I'm talking about don't push out. Stop pushing that don't push. Don't use us. Stop using the dope. Wake up. Yeah. Well, what you tell me now? What you tell me now? False lying, false preaching, yeah. False teaching, yeah. Wake up, y'all. Come on. You preachers, stop preaching what you teach. Teach the truth. Wake up, preachers. Liars, politicians. Well, stop lying. Stop lying. Wake up, yeah, wake up, yeah, wake up, yeah, wake up, yeah, yeah, yeah. It don't matter, yeah, yeah. What race, creed, or color, everybody, we need each other. Wake up, everybody. Come on down, wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Wake up, all you teachers, start to teach a new way. There's they're the ones that suffer each and every day. Teach the children, teach the babies, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the children, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the babies. They're the one who's coming out.
The hard times, we took a hard left, but we're alright. Yeah, life sure can try to put love through it, but we built this right, so nothing's ever gonna move it. When the bones are good, the rest don't matter. Yeah, the pain could peel, the glass could shatter, let it rain.
Call it dumb luck, but baby, you and I can't even mess it up. Though we both try, and no, it won't always go the way we planned it. But the wolves came and went, and we're still standing. When the bones are good, the rest don't matter. Yeah, the pain could feel. Let it rain, 'cause you and I remain the same. And there ain't a crack in the foundation. Baby, I know any storm we're facing will blow right over while we stay put. The house don't fall when the bones are good. When the bones are good.
We've been testing you, and you failed. To see how long that you could sit was the truth, but you bailed. And I don't think you even recognize the loss of control, and I don't think you even see it in yourself. See, every one of us is counting dice that we didn't roll, and the loser is the last to ask for help. Be afraid, very afraid. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. The stage belongs to you, and you feel like a star. And you can bark and snap like a dog at the man who just tuned your guitar. And I don't think you even recognize the kid in the wings, and I don't think you even see her in yourself. She looks to you for what to do with all her delicate dreams, but you're too terrified to be of any help. Be afraid, be very afraid. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Be afraid.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? My name is Cal Penn. I am an actor and one of the former associate directors of the White House Office of Public Engagement under President Obama and then Vice President Biden. Welcome to one of many really fun inauguration kickoffs. We're glad that you've joined us today for a conversation with actors from a number of political shows that you might know: Designated Survivor, Scandal. Obviously, The West Wing. We've got a lot of folks from The West Wing, so I know you're eager to hear from them. We wanted to pay tribute to this amazing historic time. We've got a great week coming up. Obviously, in terms of what's happening in the country, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris are taking office at a time of a lot of unprecedented crises in our country, but it's also a time for a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity to rebuild and unify as Americans. Those of us who you'll be hearing from tonight are obviously not politicos in real life right now. We're just actors. But around these times, we seem to get asked a lot of questions about our fictitious lives in the characters we've played and the shows that you've supported us through. We figured this would be kind of a fun event for everyone to ask some questions and hear from. So I'm just going to get started because you saw the lineup. I'm going to bring in Bellamy Young from Scandal to say hello. Bellamy, how are you?
I'm so good, Cal. Thanks so much for doing this. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Where are you tonight? How are you?
I am coming to you live from New York City and, proud of my time on Scandal, getting to be an aggrieved first lady and a senator and then a president. But I think I'm here tonight because I had a one-time guest star on The West Wing, right? I think is what is right.
Did you? Is that true? I didn't know that.
It's 100% true. Yeah. I played Mary Lou very well. I'm the only one with zero West Wing experience. I'm just trying to get in good with your dad, Cal. I'll be honest.
He's a big West Wing fan. Oh, that's true. I told everybody offline, my dad is a big West Wing fan, and he's watching tonight. This makes me. I auditioned for The West Wing once. I did not get the parts. Ajay Naidu, who was fantastic in that particular part, got it and crushed it. All of the West Wing nerds who are watching will probably know exactly which episode I'm talking about. I was far too young at the time too, but that's awesome. Oh man. I'm going to tell you this before. Well, no, I'll bring them in. I had a bone to pick with the whole West Wing cast. I'll bring them in before I
love it. They love to get. Yeah, they love it. Let's get into it.
Right. Okay. All right. Richard Schiff from the West Wing. How are you, Richard?
I'm well. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Bellamy.
Hi, Richard. It's good to see you.
Same.
Richard, I think we're going to introduce Janelle next. Janelle Maloney, are you there?
I am. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. As my kids say, am I laggy? I feel like I'm a little weird.
So.
It looks okay?
It feels that way, but I don't think it comes across that way.
Okay.
Right. It's everybody watching.
How are you? Hi, Bellamy.
How are you?
Hi, it's good to see you.
Hi, Cal. I worked with Cal I think I worked with you a long time ago on a TV show. I can't remember which one it was. Were you a doctor?
Oh, man. I'm a brown dude in Hollywood. I've played so many doctors.
You were on House, weren't you?
Yeah, we may have. Maybe on House. Were you on House?
Oh, yes, it was House. I almost looked up my own credits. That's how old I feel and am right now.
The whole audience is like texting us going, I know what you've been on. That's always the rock.
Hi, everyone.
For
Thanks
connecting.
for having me.
Cal, your ex creative runner is my current creative runner, David Shore.
Oh, no way. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm on a show called The Good Doctor.
Yeah.
And work with David quite a bit.
Incredible show. Well, please tell him hello.
But David's a good man.
He is a good guy. He's a good guy. Bradley, are you there? Bradley Whitford?
Yeah.
Also this is the whole West Wing that we're bringing in. Hey, man. Yeah.
Thank you. It's really good to be here. If I could just say, obviously, this has been a difficult, scary time, but just the fact that the one person who was a regular on both of these shows, Josh Molina, is not on the panel, I think it just gives me a lot of hope about what's to come for the nation. And it is the definition, I think, of kind of common ground, something we can agree upon, that we don't need to look at Josh Molina or have him pretend to contribute.
And it's clearly the result of majority rule.
All the journalists watching this open press event who are looking for like political juice are now getting the West Wing juice that you've just offered.
Political juice or juice?
Right out of the juice as it was my boozy beverage. Mm-hmm. Yes, the juice. Bradley, I'm gonna bring in Mary McCormick.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, gang.
Hi.
There is a weird lag, Janelle. You're not wrong. I wrote Josh Molina. I took a picture of us and sent it to Josh Molina just so he would feel extra left out. And I said, "Are your ears burning?" And he said, "No, but my ass is itchy." Anyway, there's that.
Beautifully.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. It's exciting to be part of something actually hopeful after 4 years of darkness. It's really nice to be here.
Agreed.
I feel like I was talking to Melissa Fitzgerald, who played the brilliant Carol on The West Wing and who is our sort of spiritual leader on The West Wing. And she said something which I think is really, I keep thinking about. She said, "Hope springs eternal, but it also strengthens in the face of adversity." And I think it's true. I feel more hope now after surviving these 4 years than I did even before. So I feel so excited to begin this next chapter, to begin healing. And we have the right leadership finally and the right team. I mean, his team, they keep announcing that team of super smarties. I'm like, each one is more impressive than the next. So it's exciting.
Very, very exciting. I'm going to just bring in the last of the group. Last but not least, Dulé.
Hey.
How's everybody doing? I have to agree with you, Brad. Is during this challenging time, during this, these dark 4 years that we've gone through, it is nice to know that democracy still works when I don't see Josh Molina on here either. I really do. But tomorrow, the future is great. The future is bright. There's hope for
the will of the people. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I do got to tell you, Cal, I mean, yes, you are the only one who doesn't have West Wing experience, but at the same time, you are the only one that has West Wing experience.
True.
Okay, fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's actually, Dulé, that is a good segue into the first question that I wanted to ask all of you, which was like, at what point did we all have our own political awareness or when did you first start thinking about presidential administrations before working on your respective shows? And did your experience on the show change that? For me, my answer to this question actually starts with the West Wing, because I was a huge West Wing fan, through college. And then when I had the chance to take my sabbatical from acting and work for President Obama, one of the things I was excited about was ordering Chinese food at 2 a.m. when we would have a late night. And you find out really early on that Secret Service just won't let you get delivery to the real White House. And I was like, but they did it on the West Wing. They're eating Chinese food in the morning. I wanted that experience. I wanted to learn from TV. And I never, you'd have to bring your own food, or you'd eat these vending machine sandwiches from the basement of the Eisenhower building on the White House complex. It was really just all bad news. But so that, that's obviously a more frivolous look at it. But what did you all think about presidential administrations before working on your shows? Did you have any exposure to them before, or was the show sort of the first time that you interacted with any administration, fake or real?
I mean, I'll just say for myself, I was 23 years old. I kind of thought that a lot of politicians blew a lot of smoke. They would talk on one side of the mouth and do something else. I thought that it was a big circus overall until I joined the West Wing. Really, is at that point talking with all the cast members, and I mean, every day on the set, it was always a political conversation about what, how the mechanics of things work. And after I had a chance to actually meet different politicians, I started to realize that there are really a bunch of good people in the system who really want to do well. They really want to, have the country be the fullest version of herself that she can be. And they may differ on how to attack it and how to approach it. But overall, there are people who really are genuinely passionate about policy and making the country the best that she can be. And it really it started to inspire me during that time, the years of being on the West Wing, especially early on, to be involved. I really started to realize at that point that democracy is only made up of the people who are engaged in it. And I can sit on the sideline and I can look back and I can turn my nose up at it and say that they're all a bunch of jokers, or I can roll my sleeves up and actually do something to help bring about the change that I want to see. And that's something I really, I guess, gathered early on from working with Brad and working with, Richard and Martin Sheen, especially. Like, I'll never forget one weekend in my first season of the show, Martin knocking on my trailer and said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Great, we're going out to campaign." And that was that. It was like, okay. And that's how I kind of started to get involved in being a part of the process.
Who did you campaign for? Do you remember?
It was Al Gore. So actually, I guess that might have been the second season then, in 2000.
Yeah, it was Al Gore in 2000, I'm sure.
Yep. He said we're going
So
out.
a lot of cast members inspired you, but Josh Molina really was not one of them.
No, definitely not Josh Molina. No, I think actually at that time I had no idea who Josh Molina was, and it's funny because 20 years later, I still don't know who he is.
Lucky guy.
What about, I mean, I guess I can extend this question to Josh Molina if any of you are texting with him, but what about everybody else? Any exposure to or expectations of presidential administrations before working on the show? Were any of you political beforehand, or was the show the first time?
I think Brad certainly was, but I'll go ahead, Brad, and then I'll tell you my version of that answer.
My family was politically active as I was growing up. My family's Quaker, and sort of civic engagement is kind of a big deal. And my brother was a conscientious objector during Vietnam. So the consequences of political decisions were very present in the house. I always felt like more than being, I got engaged in, I was engaged a little bit in politics, but it obviously with West Wing, it really ramped up. But the motivation for that wasn't, it was just because I was having children at the time, and the consequences of the decisions that were being made by the Bush administration seemed to me to be sort of attacking their future. And that's what kind of got me involved. Now, of course, George Bush looks like Abby Hoffman. So it was a different time.
But Brad, you were heavily involved in the Gore campaign. So even before, I guess I was to prevent Bush from taking control. So here's an example of where I was, because Brad and I had a conversation. I actually went up and asked him, because I said, you know what, I don't get the difference between these guys, Gore and Bush. Obviously, in retrospect, that's a ludicrous statement. And I said, I'm thinking of voting for Nader because I know who he is, And he gave me a 4-hour lecture as to why that's a bad decision. And ultimately, I referred back to that 2000 election as an example of why you have to engage in mainstream politics, because the consequences are just horrendous. We would not have been in Iraq. We would not have bankrupted our treasury with 3 different wars, including the war on drugs. So many, we would be leading the world in alternative energy had Gore been the president. There's so many things on which turned on a dime in 2000, which led us to where we are today. But the reason why I was so unwilling, because my political past was more on the street, and I was hard left and a staunch anti-war demonstrator. Even at 13, I went down to Washington, D.C. For the peace moratorium there. The only time I saw Washington before we shot the West Wing was through a cloud of tear gas. So I had no idea it was a beautiful city. But, riot police and hundreds of thousands of demonstrators was my first introduction to Washington. And I grew up, I'm older than everyone here, I think, by a couple of weeks. And I was growing up during the Nixon administration. And in the 60s, when I was becoming cognizant of things, John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Robert Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and more were assassinated. And it seemed like and then, we demonstrated against LBJ, and then Nixon took over. And, I just felt like mainstream politics was a disaster no matter which way you went. And it wasn't until the West Wing and my introduction to a lot of these people, and like Dulé said, you meet this, especially the younger staffers in the White House or on the Hill, and they're dedicated and they're smart and brilliant, and they work 20 hours a day. And so my favorite TV in the early 2000s during the West Wing was C-SPAN. And I was just fascinated with the everyday goings on of Congress and things surrounding government. So I watched C-SPAN incessantly, and then I got involved. But I still feel like I'm betraying something because I'm in the middle of mainstream politics. But I have to say one more thing. I've known Joe Biden since 2004 and campaigned with him. The only person not from Delaware to campaign with him back for the 2008 campaign. And that we've become friends. And I really believe that there is such a sense of goodness and kindness and, of course, great experience and wisdom that I feel once we get through this last hurricane, or that we will be settling into some form of normality. And I will be, for the first time, not having to wake up and turn on my phone or turn on the news to see if the world is still there. And that's going to be a very comforting thing.
You're here.
Very
Well said,
very
Richard.
well said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
I wasn't paying attention. Words were just flying out of my mouth.
That was
I had
good.
no idea what I was saying.
Go watch it back. You'll be like, oh, yeah, that was really good.
That's why.
I wasn't
envy
listening. I wasn't listening. What did you say, Richard?
You never have listened to me more than 4 minutes, unless it has to do with food that you ordered.
Bellamy, I'm going to go to you next. What did playing a political character make you more interested in political events?
Well, I was just so taken, Richard, listening to you. I'm so moved at the fact that you were so involved with things so early. I grew up in North Carolina in the 70s and the 80s, and in Asheville, so a little blue dot in a mostly red state. But politics, it just felt like something other people did that was outside of my everyday existence. It just seemed like a separate universe entirely. It hurts me now to think about that. But no, when I got the job, Carrie and Tony were the first people I ever met who had actual experience in administrations and, had actual connections in DC. But DC opened its arms so warmly to our cast as we were working, and getting to know the people there, getting to see hope and heart and hard work and people shaping the future of not just our nation, but our world. It was so moving to just see that democracy is us, we the people, that all along. It's like the end of the Wizard of Oz or something. You click your heels and you go home, because home was always where you were, and politics is always wherever we are. It is so important. I know we talked a lot about this election, of course, for the president, but also down ballot. Things that happen down ballot affect every moment of everyone's day. And I'm so grateful for my time on Scandal, and of course my time on the West Wing as well, so that I could be awakened to the fact that that I'm a part of it, that we're all a part of it. And I know we're all sitting here tonight doing the thing where they're like, oh, actors talking about politics. But no, it's just human beings talking about politics. And Cal, you framed it so nicely to say that, this is a time when those of us who have, pretended to be there get a lot of questions. But really, we should all be asking ourselves all these questions anyway, because, it just, we all have to participate. I was so heartened to see a record turnout this year. That was incredible, and moved by, I know, sort of like, like magnets repelling each other, but at least we're going forward in terms of engagement, because that's all I want everybody to know, is that every voice matters.
Janelle and Mary, curious for both of you as well. Did playing a political character make you more or less interested in political events?
Janelle, do you want to go?
No, go ahead, Mary, go.
All right. I was pretty political before the West Wing. I did a show. I was pretty political growing up. But then I did a show right before the West Wing called K Street, which was on HBO. And it was Steven Soderbergh directed it, and I played a young Republican, and it was all improvised. And Mary Madeline was in the show, and she was my mentor, and James Carville was John Slattery's mentor, and we sort of ran around DC improvising scenes. And so I was forced to get really up to speed when I shot that. But I think I sort of agree with everything everyone has said going, up to this point. But I also want to say that one of the really fun things about our job is access, right? Like it's so nice to be able to, like, I love Richard Schiff's work. I can say, I love your work, and, and be heard, and the same is true with advocating for causes or being political and affecting change. And, I remember I dragged Alice and Janney to DC one year to lobby on behalf of type 1 diabetes. And, we've all sort of gathered around each other's causes and show up, and we all campaigned for Hillary in Ohio together in a white van, just stop by stop. And it's such a joy to be able to do that and affect real. Like when we were doing phone banking for this election, just to see the hundreds and hundreds of people who don't have that leg up or that special access, or just putting hour after hour in, just really. It's been so inspiring to see that. It really has. So it pushes me further and encourages me along to stay active and to stay committed to defending democracy. I think when I grew up, my dad was a Marine, and whenever I would be concerned about an administration, he would say, democracy works. It's fine. There's checks and balances. You can't hurt it. It works. And now he's like, he's off the charts angry and, the most alarmed of anyone I know. But it's this time showed me that that's not the case. The case is we have to stay involved. We have to roll up our sleeves. We have to pick up the phone. We have to knock on doors. We have to raise money. We have to be empathetic. And we have to do all those things all the time to enjoy this way of life. That's a real privilege. So anyway, that's all.
Janelle, how about you?
It didn't. I was always interested in politics. I come from a very, just a very, a bunch of lefty Californians, and you were kind of expected to be engaged and to vote, and so. I just have always done the best I could at trying to do my part. And sometimes I did better than others. And then on West Wing, when I started West Wing, I felt like we had this great opportunity to do more than most people could do in terms of getting to know politicians and getting access to understanding different things that were going on in the world through politics. So so I think I just naturally became more involved. And then over the past, several years, it's interesting because I have two young kids, and I found that my time has been, I haven't had as much time as I would like to really like do as much as I would prefer. And then I realized how little it takes to just really do you have to do something. And one of the benefits of being a part of West Wing has been I got to do, I could always do something through West Wing. So I've been pretty engaged over these past few years. Mostly, I'll say, it's because of Melissa Fitzgerald, who I think all of us can say that if you say yes to something, that's it. You're doing it. There's no going back. So she keeps us all really on our toes. Everyone is anyway, but especially me. She helps me a lot to do my part. So,
I mean, it's just to sort of pile on to something that Mary said. I mean, I think what everybody is, you kind of realize that coming out of the experience on the West Wing, which I think a lot of us, one thing I love about it, it is not a cynical show about politics. And I think everybody came out of that experience understanding that politics isn't, just a fun place to set a TV show. Politics is actually the way you create your moral vision. And the whole idea of this country is based on some sort of notion that we're not at the mercy of our future, but the future is an act of creation. And I have to say, I have never felt the Democrats more, if there is a silver lining in this nightmare, and it is certainly not worth the suffering of the most vulnerable among us, but there is a level of civic engagement, of strategic that I haven't felt from progressives, in a long time. We can't afford to deal in false equivalence. When the whole democratic experiment is at stake, and the way people, especially young people, especially a lot of voters, certainly in Georgia, who had never voted before, that kind of civic engagement really gives me hope.
I'm glad you said that, Bradley. I was going to save something like that for sort of towards the end, but when I worked in the Office of Public Engagement under the previous administration, I remember one of my big frustration. So I mostly worked on outreach to young people and outreach to the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities, and then the artist communities. Those are my three buckets. But it seemed like after inauguration, there was this sense of, okay, great, we've done our jobs, and we're, now other people are going to kind of make things happen. And there was this realization among a lot of people who'd done a lot of really good work that work still needed to continue. And you needed to then lobby members of Congress to vote the right way on a particular bill, or look at what was happening, with judicial nominations and how to get those through with senators who might be holding those up. And I feel like now, to your point, there's been so much more awareness of that and so much more interest and engagement on that I'm really hopeful about the next 4 years after inauguration, that hopefully everybody who's watching tonight, who I know already put in so much work on the case, especially the last year of everything that's happening, my hope is that we'll all continue to do that and really see some great results out of it with
House elections are coming up.
Yeah, that's right. We forget how quickly the stuff comes around. Did you, as I'm talking about this, I'm remembering, so on Designated Survivor, I started as a speechwriter and then I ended up playing the press secretary. So I got promoted a few times in the 3 seasons. But when I played the press secretary, I reached out to Josh Earnest, who was the real press secretary at the time. And to the point you made earlier, I had that access, which I felt very fortunate about. But Josh also was really generous and said, I would love, I love when I see these things depicted properly and accurately. And I got to shadow him for a day and asked him a whole bunch of questions. And his job, for everybody watching, I get this question a lot. People say, well, you played a press secretary. You sort of knew what that was like, right? Because you worked in the White House. I'm like, no, that would be like saying, okay, I did a play where I played an airline mechanic and then I worked as a flight attendant in real life. Like the two worlds are just, the two jobs are totally different. So anyway, Josh Earnest was so gracious with his time and I learned so much. I'm curious for all of you, were you able to reach out to anybody who had your jobs in real life? And what were those conversations like? Did you find them helpful? Was it weird? Were you doing things that were a little different on screen? This is the fanboy question, by the way.
I've had a lot of people come up to me, and it's really funny because it's like all different stripes of people, male, female, old, young, and they grab me on the street. I live in New York, and they grab me on the street and say, I'm Donna. I'm Madonna. I play like that. They identify with their job and with my character because of the job that they do. And I always thought that was super cute. And I also met, a couple of different Donnas in the administration who are adorable and bright and hardworking and, fantastic. But I always get a kick out of people saying to me that, they're Donna. So it's cute.
That's awesome.
I would say, for me, when I joined this show, Dee Dee Myers was one of the advisors on the series, and she connected me with Chris Ensko, who at the time was a personal aide to President Clinton. And when we came to DC on the first trip for me to film out there, Chris and we went out for coffee. We sat there, out there on the patio at this hotel, and we talked for hours. And he really just broke down the job for me. He let me understand, I guess, how the personal aide to the president is such a gatekeeper to power. He has, you have to kind of go through him to get to the president. And over time, we really formed a friendship, and he allowed me I was blessed to be able to kind of just stand in the shadows sometimes while he was doing his job. And then once he left, Doug Band stepped into that role also, and Doug extended the same graciousness to me also and allowed me to sometimes just be there. And it really taught me a lot about how to do and how and the power of the access for such a young person to be that close to power, where you start to know heads of states and things like that, just because you are always with the president. And that things like that, I was able to take with me back to the role.
Wasn't one of those guys, there was a famous moment where Clinton was screaming at his personal guy, his body man, and he's just screaming at him, and you see the body guy kind of look around, and he sees that there are cameras there, and he kneels down behind the bushes so that it won't look like the president is screaming at him. And I always thought that was one of those guys.
I've been before Enzo. I mean, it could have been like Andrew Friendly or somebody like that. I'm not sure, but I don't think that was Chris or Doug. I could be wrong.
Dule, when you say you are allowed to be there, you're talking about you were in the White House with Clinton and his aide, right? That happened often, didn't it?
In the White House, so like I visited the White House, so I was able to see some movements, but really I was able to see at some events outside of the White House that if I was okay, cool, I can come. And especially even more so, I would say, once President Clinton left the office, I still was able to see how the job worked, like right after he left the office. So I was able to really sometimes just be around and see how the movements went. And it really helped me know how to approach the nuance of how to approach Charlie.
Well, when we first started, the Clinton White House Clinton was in the White House, and it was the last year or so of the Clinton White House because we started in '99, and it was before 9/11. Don't forget. So we had access to the White House like it was, the gate was like a summer swinging, screen door. We would just go I'd be walking in the neighborhood, or I'd be in Lafayette Park, or I used to have cigars. I used to sit down and read the paper, and then I would get a call. Okay, one time I actually, Brad, you might remember this. I was sitting in Lafayette Park having a cigar, and I got a call from John Podesta, who was the chief of staff. And he goes, "I hear you're in town." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Is Brad around?" And I go, "I could find him. Why?" And he goes, "Well, we have an event at the Treaty Room with the National Association of Breast Cancer Survivors, and Bill and Hillary were going to host it, but they've gotten busy. Would you mind coming with Brad and hosting this event?" So I went, "Okay." And we went to the Treaty Room of the old executive office building, Brad and I, right? Brad, you were there. And we, and these women, surviving women of breast cancer who were very political and very active, but very frenetically enthusiastic that we were there. And I had this, and also when we go to the convention, the Democratic convention, is when I understand what Elvis felt like. Because we walked into this room and all the women just attacked us with love. And it was quite remarkable. And it was the first time I realized how much of an effect we were having on people, that we would be invited to host this event and speak on breast cancer. So, I had some experience with it because I had in-laws and my aunt and so on. So I was able to speak to it somewhat, but very unprepared to go host an event in the Treaty Room. But that's we had access to the White House. So I would talk to the writers in the bullpen. I would call them up and say, "Hey, you want to have coffee across the street?" And we had Dee Dee Myers on the set, and I got to know Joe Lockhart, who was the press secretary, and I didn't take any of their advice as to how to play the role, but it was very fun to speak to them all.
But Richard, I think you meant to say that you felt the first time you realized what it was like to be Rob Lowe, how he felt, right? Not Elvis, but Rob.
Who's Rob Lowe?
I had a funny little thing when we ended up shooting there. Steve Ricchetti, by the way, is going to be part of the Biden administration, who was the deputy chief of staff, who was the guy I talked to. But after Clinton left, I met Josh Bolton, who was the deputy chief of staff for Bush, and met with him. He was really nice. And then we were actually shooting on the White House grounds on a Saturday. And I was going in and out of the gate, and there was just a funny moment where the Secret Service guys who had seen me, were shooting this thing. So they've already checked my bag. But Josh Bolton comes in to actually work in the White House on a Saturday, and I walk up to the Secret Service guys, and they just wave me through, and then they really thoroughly search Steve Ricchetti's bag, which I thought was really funny.
I was not a part of the series regular cast when I started. I was just recurring that first season. And so lots of those guys got to meet their counterparts. But like Richard and Brad, like you're saying, by the time I got to be a series regular, people had started to notice the show. And so the first time I got to meet First Lady Obama, I was playing First Lady at that point, was at Correspondents' Dinner. The first time I got to go to Correspondents' Dinner. And you have that little room before you're in the big room, and you're going to have 0.3 seconds, and you're going to take a picture. But I was thinking, I really have to, I'm not going to ask her anything because that'd be weird, but I'm just going to, really vibe it and really just see and just, to soak it in. And if she tells me anything, it's going to be really helpful. And we step onto the dais, and I'm, breathless. It's me and Tony. So it's Tony and President Obama hug it out, and they know each other. And the first thing Michelle Obama says to me is, "Why did you kill your son?" And literally, I got so freaked out that A, I thought she might be mad at me, and then B, that she saw the show and even understood that I was alive. Do you know, like, it so freaked me out that I made like koala noises and couldn't get anything out of them. Like literally, even the picture is like me like this. So my research was pretty truncated.
That's a pretty good one, though.
That's good.
That
It
is.
still stops my heart to think about it. It scared me to death. I hate when people are mad at me. And I was then I was like, I didn't kill any. Like literally, I was so confused.
I was at one of those things and somebody tapped my shoulder. I turned around and it's Alan Greenspan with his face, that is the result of trying not to express anything for decades. He said, "You're on that show," and I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Why isn't anybody interested in the Fed chief?"
I was at a cocktail party during Correspondence Weekend, and I was outside, and I'm socially inept, so I'm in a corner somewhere. Then I see this big hulking man kind of walking towards me. And I realized, I know this face. It's older, but who is this guy? He's scary. And he comes up to me and looks me right in the eye, and he points to me and he goes, "I find your show eerie," and then walked away. It was General Alexander Haig.
Oh,
Wow.
I was
I
in
don't
New
know if
Mexico.
it was eerie because he hated it or because it was eerie because it was so true to life to him, or
Weird.
And I was too scared to ask. And so I said, yeah.
I was in New Mexico like 3 days before Obama was elected, and I was waiting to sort of meet him at a rally at the University of New Mexico. And he was coming down the line, and I was so excited. So with my husband, and all of a sudden he looked up and he went, oh, you're, and I was like, no, you're, and you're the national security advisor. And I was like, you're the next president of the United States. I'm really just a silly actress, like doing a show in New Mexico. It was the most exciting. And I have a picture of him going, which is pretty, I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It's pretty great. Yeah.
It's a good photo.
He loves the
Like,
Western.
yeah,
And apparently his body man, is that what you say? His body man or body? Yeah. His body man, Reggie Love, said, whom I knew just a teeny bit, said he had been watching the final season of The West Wing, like in the car on the way to that rally.
Oh, that's cool.
And I did Peace in the Middle East. I don't like to brag. I don't like to brag.
Did you?
I solved Social Security. Don't forget.
Peace in the Middle East is.
Yeah,
No, Social Security is a more complex issue.
Is it?
They're different. Different.
Different people.
I'll call Obama now.
Dule, I feel like you've heard. I feel like I've talked to you in the past years ago about the next question that I'm going to ask, and I'm kind of curious, obviously, on your take, but sort of everybody is the ties between specific real world events and whether they were or weren't incorporated into the show. And I think on Designated Survivor, it was such a far-fetched kind of conspiracy theory show that for the most part, we kind of stayed away from anything that had happened in real life. The plot lines just never really went that way, with the one exception of, at the time, it seemed like it was far-fetched and it was sort of a pandemic-related storyline. But I know the one episode of The West Wing that I auditioned for that I sort of mentioned earlier was the post 9/11 episode. And I remember that being, as an actor, obviously something that we knew about in the entertainment industry, but also as a country and as a fan of the show, something that people really looked to for catharsis. So I'm wondering if you all remember how that came together. And then Bellamy, since you and I were not on The West Wing at the time, if there was anything on Scandal in particular that you remember that was sort of tied into the real world. Dule, I guess we'll start with you because I remember us talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, probably Richard or Brad could probably, or even Janelle can give a more nuanced answer to it. I do remember that, Aaron wanted to do a special episode about it started to like a standalone episode that really was outside of the scope of what our show, the storyline of what our show was doing. But I honestly, like during that time, it was such a blur for me. And even as I think back on it now, I just remember being in such shock of what was happening within the country. And I for myself, just felt honored to be a part of something that we can say something or do something to talk about where we are and how we got here, because I really was at a point of loss. But I don't really know. I can't sit here and say that I know all the nuance of how that actually came about. I just remember Aaron and Tommy talking to us about wanting to do a special episode. And I think he wrote it extremely quickly. And we filmed it not too long after that, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember this. There was a strong feeling that it was a really bad idea for us to so clearly adopt real world events. And I remember talking with Aaron about it, being worried about it. Aaron, I think creatively, we had to get another episode out, and he was in the middle of writing something else, but this world-changing event had happened, and he couldn't write about anything else. But the whole time we were shooting it, I was really worrying that it might be a bad idea. In retrospect, I think it's one of our most powerful episodes. And instead of doing what other television shows did, which was pretend 9/11 didn't happen and, digitally remove the Twin Towers from the credits, very quickly I came around that Aaron's instinct was right. Even though it didn't fit into the logic of the show, he was using the tool he had to make sense of this horrible thing that had happened. So ultimately, I thought his instincts were right. But early on, it's like, wait a minute, we're not real. Should we go into this? Will it just seem pretentious? But ultimately, I really admire him for making that choice.
My reaction was, sorry, who wants to speak? Thank you. My reaction was different. I did not like it. I didn't like it when it was written. No disrespect meant to Aaron. I haven't seen it since, so I don't know how I would feel about it now if I saw it. But I felt it was oversimplifying the issue. By going back to biblical days, the Isaac and Ishmael, and I just felt it wasn't doing the nature of the cause and effect, if you will, of what led up to that day. It wasn't doing that justice. That was just my feeling back then. I went along with it, obviously, and participated in it. And I'm glad people reacted positively to it, although a lot of people did not on the day. But one of the things that changed also was that our world on the West Wing became different after 9/11. We became much more aware of international potential terrorism and lockdowns in the White House and so on. We became a little bit more realistic. I think up until that point, we could be called a romantic comedy, really, you know what I mean, with dramatic elements. But after that, I think we legitimately became a drama. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what it felt like when we were shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
Dead silence from the crowd. Thank you very much.
Oh, no. It's that delay that we have. Yeah.
What would happen on the show sometimes, though, was that I know that as I'm remembering, there would be times we would film an episode and somehow it would, I guess, intersect with reality. So by the time the show was coming on the air, it was actually either just happened or right in the middle of happening in real life. I don't know how that worked out, but that happened a few times throughout the journey of the show.
There was an episode
with India and Pakistan at one point.
But yeah, right. I'm sorry. Right when Danny Pearl, was killed. like 2 days before, we had finished an episode which ended with a reporter being killed, and I know that Aaron wondered whether they should air it. They ultimately did, but there was a spooky coincidence there.
And even at the end, so I mean, sorry to keep on yapping, but even at the end, like, wasn't there when we had a Santos and then when Obama won, wasn't there some similarities with who won the World Series and all that kind of stuff, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't remember the World Series, but Santos is there's a lot of similarities, I think, between Santos and Obama.
Well, Eli Addy created the Santos character based on Obama. That's known. And clearly Alan Alda was based on some version of John McCain. So that live debate was very similar to the actual debate, only just better performed.
For
the thing,
everybody,
I did not know that Eli
watching
Obama until right now. Look at that! I'm learning something new today too. Look at that.
I was going to shout out Eli Addy real quick for folks who are watching who don't know. Eli was one of Vice President Al Gore's speechwriters. He then joined the writing staff on The West Wing. And then after The West Wing was one of our writers on House. So I think we all, in one way or another, have either worked with or know Eli Addy. He's this brilliant writer. So big shout out to him. Bellamy, I didn't want to forget you in terms of the real world stuff here for the non-West Wing folks. Was there an experience that kind of stood out to you?
Absolutely. We had Dulé, a lot of like what you said, we would film things and then things would happen. And is it appropriate that we air it? Or, there were those moments. But the biggest ones I recall are, of course, Hollis Doyle, wonderful Greg Henry's character, presaged, echoed Donald Trump, hard to say. We had to change the ending of what would have been our final season. We were going to go with a Russian hacking the election storyline, but then life happened. I know also that, so many of us on Scandal had worked towards Hillary becoming president. And when that did not happen, I think Shonda realized the value of the forum that she had. So we got an extra year out of that. Millie would have never been president. That wasn't going to happen. None of that was going to happen. So that structurally changed. But the one that meant the most to me, and I don't even think I'm in that episode, but it just means the most to me, like as a human being, was the lawn chair, which is an episode that was written in response to, I guess the direct analogy is Michael Brown's body laying in the street for so many hours, but in a larger way to police violence against Black and brown bodies. And but that was a very, that was a clearly made choice. And Shauna really never had any oversight. She sort of, the buck stopped with her. And I think she felt it was something she had to do as a human, like to tell that story in a way that all viewpoints could be seen, but that it could be through the lens of compassion, inclusion, sanity. I don't know, fill in the blank with the noun of your choice. But that's the episode I remember meaning the most to me in that ripped from the headlines based on real life way.
I wish we had more time. I know we're running out and I want to be respectful of our audience. So I guess I'll ask everybody if they have anything they want to wrap up with before we let everybody go. I'll go in reverse order of the way you were introduced. So Dulé, we'll start with you. Anything to wrap up?
I would just say, we have to, let's keep staying engaged. Let's keep rolling our sleeves up. Let's keep challenging our nation to be what we want her to be, what we desire for this country to be. I trust that we are much better than we are right now. I know that we are much better right now. And I think that if we can all just come together over these next 4 years and stay engaged. It's like every time an election comes up, we all will, get involved and we work very hard to get somebody elected. But if we really want to bring about the change that we want to see, we have to stay involved over these next 4 years. So So let's do it. I hope that you challenge me to stay involved, and I'll challenge you to stay involved. And hopefully coming together, we can make a huge difference.
Very well said. Mary?
I'll circle back on the words of Melissa Fitzgerald. Hope springs eternal, but it strengthens in the face of adversity. I feel more hopeful today than I have felt in obviously 4 years, but in a long, long time. Because I think, like Brad said, we're awake now. The country's awake, and people who weren't politically active are politically active times 100, and that's all good. And I think we have the right leadership, we have the right team, we have President-elect Biden, who has faced his own darkness and his own grief, and is filled with empathy and is ready for the job of healing. And so I think we are in really good hands. So I'm excited. And go Georgia, go blue.
Bradley, how about you?
I want to amplify what both of them are saying. I think sometimes on the left, part of the reason that we have minority rule is because the right understands that politics is the way you create your moral vision, for all their hypocrisy about small government. We tend to think on the left that it's the stuff we do, culture. And culture is very, very important. But persistent, never-ending participation in the political process is, if we are not participating, we're sentencing ourselves to a gulag dictated by the people who do participate. And the people who do participate tend to be the ones defending a very selfish business interest, and politics is not an extracurricular for them. And so my hope is that everybody remains involved, because you don't ever get a democracy. You got to make it every damn day. So stay involved.
Absolutely. Janelle?
I don't think there's anything else I could say that they didn't already say. I can say that I've been really touched by the fans, by the West Wing fans over this election period. We, as a group, all of the West Wingers were on this kind of text this group text that doesn't ever seem to end, and which has been a really wonderful thing for me to be in touch with everybody so closely. I think it's bonded all of us. But I just, all of the fans, I think, have worked so hard in their own way and really raised a lot of money for the campaign. And they've all done a lot of outreach, and I feel like they've just been really inspiring to me. And I feel so lucky that I'm part of a show that actually can make a difference even after 20 years. It's pretty remarkable. So I'm just really grateful. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Well, first, Cal and Bellamy, it's nice to get to know you guys. The West Wing mates, I see all the time nowadays on Zoom and in calls and texting and stuff. So it's nice to meet you guys and to get to know you a little bit. I think that what's unfortunate, and of course I'm going to go to the negative first, is that humans have a tendency to react proactively only after disaster. When community really happens, it's after something really bad. Farmers get together after the flood. In LA, people come out and help each other after an earthquake. Well, we've had a flood and an earthquake and a hurricane, a tornado, a monsoon, all at once hit this country and come to a head, at least for now, on January 6th at the Capitol. And it's a disaster. It is a full-blown disaster. And those that have recognized the potential for the disaster have really come together in community and become proactive politically, locally and nationally. And that's how we were able to get this victory. But as Brad has said, and as Dulea has said, and Mary and Bellamy and everybody, we cannot rest. We can't wait for the next disaster to get communal again about our political activity and our involvement. We can't feel like it's always an existential crisis for us to become involved. And I hope that we take it to heart that that activity will lead to productivity and to peace and prosperity. I like to call him my friend Joe Biden. I'm so proud that after his long journey, he is continuing his public service. He's, as I said before, a genuinely good man, and I'm hopeful that we move forward. But let's stay active. I'm going to kick myself in the butt as much as I can as well.
Thanks, Richard. That's a very good reminder for all of us. Bellamy?
Oh my goodness. I'm just sitting here thinking how grateful I am to have gotten to be a part of tonight. Just I feel so much better listening to you beautiful people tell me hilarious and hopeful stories. It is a privilege to have Josh Malina's seat at the table. And I'm just reminded that I'm reminded that, hopefully everybody feels that way, everybody in our republic, that, again, I know I said we the people, but I just want to also clarify, we had more representational candidates this year than ever before. Like the presidential stage was beautiful on the Democrat side, even down ballot things. Our Congress is becoming more diverse. I want us all to remember that it is a representational democracy, and what everyone has been saying is true. The more we participate, the more we create a future that includes everyone and that respects everyone. I have to think that important in that pursuit is getting back to a truth or fact-based economy, something we can all agree on. It's felt like quicksand for a while. I know that addressing social media persuasion is part of that equation, but we all have to listen to each other. We all have to acknowledge that although we are so different, we are all the same in our hearts. And if we lead with kindness and we listen to one another and we can agree on some facts here or there, then we can shape a beautiful future. And Mary, you said it so well. Our new president has known sadness in his life, and he is definitely the right man at the right moment to lead us in some healing. So I'm grateful for that as well. And Cal, it's nice to meet you. And everybody, it's been so nice to share the evening with you. And everybody out there that we can't see, thanks for being here with us too.
Yeah, likewise. So Bellamy, Richard, Janelle, Bradley, Mary, Dulé, everybody at home, thank you for joining us. Obviously, congratulations to the new president-elect and vice president-elect. Hugely historic week we have coming up. I think like we've talked about here, and thank you all for those hilarious stories. Please stay involved with obviously the inauguration events, but then everything that happens after that and all the ways that you can continue to stay in touch. So thanks everybody. Have a great night and a great week ahead.
Thank you.
Hey.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
Josh Malina can't act.